She discovered incredible hope behind closed doors, and unexpected knock changed her life forever. Maria woke before dawn, her small room dimly lit by the orange glow peeking through the blinds. Each morning began with a soft hum of her thoughts, tinged with worry. 2 jobs, 2 kids, and a world that seemed to close in tighter with every passing day. Yet, she pushed the blankets aside, ready to tackle another long day. The weight of the world pressed heavily on her shoulders, but hope flickered like a candle in her heart. Her children, Sarah and Lucas, brightened the modest home with their laughter, hiding the shadows of hardship. They were her everything. After she prepared breakfast scrambled eggs with toast, Maria took a moment to watch them. Their smiles, pure and unfettered, made her chest tighten with tenderness and determination. She had to keep going. As the day stretched on, Maria juggled her responsibilities. At the diner, she served greasy plates to customers with weary eyes, then hustled to the local grocery store, restocking shelves and sweeping up messes. It was grueling work that consumed her soul, but the thought of her children kept her moving forward. She envisioned better days, where they would have what they needed, where a cold wind wouldn't chill their bones from lack of warmth. After this exhausting routine, Maria returned home, her back aching and feet sore. Just as she sank onto the couch, a knock echoed through the quiet. Hesitant, she opened the door to Jack, a man weathered by life, a military veteran whose weary eyes bore marks of battles unseen. He stood there, uncertain but with an outstretched hand, seeking help. "Please, I just need something to eat," he admitted, his voice trembling. Maria hesitated. While her instinct nudged her to help, fear crept in like a shadow. Would helping him jeopardize what little stability they had? She glanced at Sarah and Lucas, who exchanged fearful glances. "Mom, we can't." In that moment, the tension rose. Maria could feel her chest tighten with anxiety. Jack's struggle wasn't just a personal one, it was a heartbreaking reflection of a system that failed him. Anger flared within her. Did this man, who had fought for freedom, not deserve support on the other side of service? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of a screen. Now, let's continue. The neighbors began to rally around Jack, their shared frustrations igniting a sense of community. Conversations turned into actions. Maria felt the stirrings of something new within her, an awakening sparked by the collective strength of her neighborhood. She began to question everything she'd held true. Was her work ethic enough, or could hope lie in uniting together against the storm? Emotional turmoil churned in her heart as she confronted an unsettling reality. Could she be the beacon of change without putting her family's stability at risk? The moment hung heavy in the air. Just when she thought she found the courage to embrace this fight for justice, a shocking revelation loomed over them like dark clouds. Could she hold her family and her community together? Moments of hope flickered in her mind, but the storm was just beginning, threatening to unravel the fragile tapestry they'd built. Would she dare to find out what lay ahead? Maria stood at the front door, torn between her instincts and her fears. Jack's sunken eyes stared back at her, evidence of a life filled with struggles. For a heartbeat, she felt the weight of every choice she had ever made, every sacrifice. Her kitchen was warm, the aroma of home-cooked meals lingering in the air, but beyond that door lay another world, one she'd tried so hard to ignore. "Just a moment," she whispered, stepping back into the house. The children were still at the table, their faces filled with confusion and concern. Maria took a deep breath, steadying herself. She had taught them to share and be kind, hadn't she? Wasn't this their moment to exemplify those values? "Mom, what are you going to do?" Sarah asked, her voice barely a whisper. The question sliced through Maria, filled with the weight of her children's trust. "I'm going to help him." "Are you sure?" Lucas's tiny voice trembled. He was only 6 but already aware of the cracks in their lives. What if he's dangerous? No one deserves to be hungry, Maria replied, finding her own strength in those words. He needs us. She felt the spark of hope igniting in her chest again, but doubts still lurked. Could her small act of kindness within these walls cause a ripple that would bring change? Could it even make a difference? Armed with steely resolve, she unlocked the door and stepped out into the cool evening. I can help you, she said, her voice firm yet gentle. Jack looked surprised, almost relieved, as he stepped closer. Thank you, he replied, the tremor in his voice softening. I didn't know where else to turn. Maria nodded, stepping aside.
Come in.
As he crossed the threshold into her home, the weight of the world seemed to settle a little less heavily on her shoulders. Jack stood awkwardly in the living room as Maria guided him to the kitchen. She set to making a simple meal while Jack sat quietly, absorbing the warmth of their home like a long-lost wanderer finally finding shelter. When the food was served, Jack ate as if every bite was a precious gift. Maria watched, heart swelling with a mixture of fear and pride. In that moment, she was reminded that hope could manifest in the most unexpected ways. Their dinner was a small victory, a step towards something bigger, a community that supported each other. After dinner, they sat together at the table, the three of them and Jack. Stories flowed, each one connecting them. Jack spoke of his time in the service, tales of brotherhood and sacrifice. Maria found herself laughing at his infectious spirit. The children relaxed, engrossed in his tales, and the unfamiliar tension in their home began to dissolve. But just as the warmth enveloped them, a shadow crossed Jack's face when he mentioned his struggles with finding work. This life doesn't always welcome you back, he said, staring down at his empty plate. Maria could feel the heavy silence hang in the air, saturated with unspoken fears. That's when the harsh reality of their shared struggles hit her like a wave. What if she hesitated, heart drumming nervously? What if we could do more? Maybe the neighborhood needs to hear your story. The idea burst forth, alive and electric. Together, we could before she could finish. Jack's eyes widened. You think they care? At that moment, Maria realized how vital it was to face the storm together. But the chaos of the idea also frightened her. What if they rejected him? What if her invitations to change only led to further heartache? Maybe they will, she said, the courage swelling within her, but we'll never know unless we try. Suddenly, the prospect of embracing a broader challenge loomed, both exhilarating and terrifying. Will you join us? She asked softly. As Jack considered her words, Maria's mind raced. The neighborhood could rally behind them. They could stand as one, extend their hands to those in need. But would they all be ready to take that leap into the unknown? The evening deepened, and the flicker of hope ignited in her heart battled against the fear of failure. Maria glanced at Jack, waiting for an answer. That could change everything. With the stakes rising, would they find the courage to face the storm together? Jack took a long, deep breath, weighing Maria's words against the reality that had burdened him for too long. The flickering overhead light cast shadows on his worn face, highlighting the lines carved by hardship. He looked at the children, their innocent faces waiting for him, and felt a swell of responsibility. What if they don't want to listen? He finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. They will, Maria assured him, her confidence sparking something in Jack's chest. People need to hear stories like yours. It could inspire others to change, to stand up for one another. Not just for you, but for all of us. A moment of silence stretched between them, a fragile thread woven from desperation and hope. Jack's heart raced as he imagined standing before a crowd, sharing truths he had buried deep inside. His anxiety mingled with the affection he felt in Maria's home.
I don't know if I can.
You don't have to do this alone, Maria said gently, placing her hand on his. I'll be with you every step of the way. And just like that, something inside him shifted. Jack nodded, a flicker of determination igniting in his chest. Okay, let us do it. The words rolled off his tongue, leaving a strange sense of relief in their wake. Maria smiled, and for a moment, laughter filled the kitchen again. The children clapped eagerly, showing their support in the only way kids knew how. But then the room grew quiet once more, apprehension settling back in. "So, what do we do now?" Jack asked. Maria leaned back in her chair, her mind racing with possibilities. "We start small. Let us invite a few neighbors over for coffee. You can share your story, and we can listen to theirs too. We'll create a safe space." Jack's heart raced at the thought. "And what if they don't want to share? Or what if they judge me?" "Then we listen. Just be honest. You'll be surprised at how people want to connect. Everyone has their battles, Jack. They need to see they're not alone." The conversation flowed effortlessly into the night, plans weaving tighter as they discussed when to host their first gathering. With each idea shared, a warmth spread through Jack, pushing away shadows of doubt. As the evening wound down, Maria could sense Jack's excitement growing. She felt it too, her heart brimming with anticipation for what lay ahead. But the doubts still lingered, like clouds threatening an unexpected storm. Would their small gathering make a difference? Would they reach those who needed it most? Or would they find themselves closed off once again? The following days were a blur of preparation. Flyers were designed, cups were arranged, and the inches of her kitchen table begged to be filled with faces and connections. Excitement thrummed in her veins, punctuated by moments of sheer terror. Finally, the day arrived. The sky hung low with gray clouds, as if mirroring her anxiety. A knock sounded at the door. Heart racing, Maria opened it to discover a familiar face, Mr. Thompson, an elderly neighbor she'd never spoken to beyond pleasantries. "Oh, good," he said with a kind smile. "I heard about your little gathering. Thought I might stop by." Maria's heart held hope, even as her stomach danced with uncertainty. "Welcome." As she stepped back to let him in, her mind buzzed. If others followed, would they make the difference she hoped for? Just then, the door creaked open again, and more faces appeared, some familiar, others unknown. With each new arrival, Maria felt her earlier doubts begin to lift. Perhaps they were stepping into something greater, a community stitched together by shared experiences. But just then, a loud shout emanated from the back of the crowd. A voice filled with anger and accusation ricocheted through the room. Whatever sense of security they'd created in those precious moments felt in danger of unraveling. With tension rising, would they find a way to heal the rift, or would it all come crashing down? Jack braced himself, the warmth in the kitchen evaporating as the argument erupted like thunder. He turned towards the commotion, heart pounding, unsure of what to expect. Neighbors' faces shifted from curiosity to concern, all eyes darting nervously towards the source of the shouting. "Why should we listen to him?" a young man shouted, his hands gesticulating wildly. "You think sharing stories somehow makes things better? News flash, it doesn't. It just digs up old wounds." The energy in the room shifted, tension wrapping around them like a thick fog. Jack felt the weight of the accusation hanging heavily, his stomach twisting in knots. Then, he glanced over at Maria, whose face held steady. She didn't flinch. Instead, she stepped forward, her voice even yet firm. "Sam, everyone has a story. You know that better than anyone. We all carry our scars, but we can't heal without facing them. This is a space for understanding, not judgment." Jack's heart raced at her courage. He wanted to call out, to assure everyone that he wasn't looking for pity, nor wanted to ignore their pain. But instead, he remained frozen, fear tightening his throat. The shout seemed to open floodgates. Another voice chimed in from the back, an older woman with silver hair framing her face. "Yeah, but what if his story's just another sob story? We've all heard those before. What's different this time?" Maria turned to the room, gathering courage like a blanket over the doubts cloaked across the crowd. "What if," she urged, "we listen first? What if we find connection in our pain? Isn't that what we're here for?" Silence lingered. Jack could see eyes shifting, some glazed with defiance, others glimmering with contemplation. This could go either way. "Fine," Sam muttered, crossing his arms. Let him talk. But don't expect me to buy into this hug-a-thon nonsense. A sobering wave of possibility washed over Jack, fueling the flicker of determination that Maria had ignited within him. He knew he had to say something, but words felt trapped, buried in the tumult of his mind. Taking a deep breath, he stepped closer to the center of the room, his hands trembling slightly. Hi, he began, his voice cracking but loud enough to hush the murmurs. Thanks for letting me share. I don't have the answers, but I want you to know I just need to share my truth. As he looked around the room and locked eyes with each neighbor, he was surprised to see a mixture of expressions. New faces, some skeptical, some gentle, even a few soft-hearted smiles. It felt like a bridge forming, one he was eager to cross. I've made my share of mistakes, he continued, each word feeling like a release. But I believe in the power of vulnerability. I want to be part of something bigger, to help others who might be struggling like I did. Jack's heart surged as he started to share, his words becoming more fluid, his fears falling away with each revelation. He spoke of past battles, of despair, but also of hope, a hope that flickered and fought like a candle against the wind. Slowly, as he opened up about his journey, he saw the defensiveness in some faces begin to soften. Yet, in the back of his mind loomed the fear that Sam's earlier words would resurface, tearing down this moment of connection before it could strengthen. As Jack wrapped up, Maria stepped beside him, her expression imbued with warmth. What we all want to know is that we're not alone, she said, reinforcing his sentiment. But just when it seemed the atmosphere might shift towards understanding, the door swung open again, and in walked someone unexpected. A figure from Jack's past, a ghost he thought he'd buried long ago. The hushed silence fell like a heavy curtain. Who was this new arrival, and what would their presence mean for the fragile stability forming in the room? With hearts racing, Jack and Maria exchanged worried glances. Would they find strength in unity, or face yet another challenge that might unravel everything they had just begun to build? Jack's breath hitched as the figure stepped into the room. It was a face he recognized all too well.
Mia.
His younger sister, her appearance still striking, even after all these years. The last time they spoke had been a turbulent storm of accusations and unanswered questions, both unresolved scars from a childhood fraught with turmoil. Jack, her voice was shaky, uncertain, a whisper that felt laden with unshed tears. The room remained still, the tension palpable as she searched for his gaze. Her eyes darted between the neighbors, and he could see her processing their stares, some full of curiosity, others edged with judgment. What are you doing here? Jack finally managed, anger and relief jostling for control within him. Memories unfolded like an old film reel, their last argument, her leaving town, and the silence that followed, stretching across years. I came to see you, Mia said, taking a hesitant step forward. I heard about everything. Her admission sliced through the fear that had wrapped around Jack since he had stood up to speak. The small glimmer of hope she brought with her was like the flickering candle he had just mentioned. Yet he was unsure how to welcome it.
Why now?
The words came out sharper than intended, but years of repressed hurt colored his tone. You turned your back when we needed each other most. Silence thickened again, the atmosphere heavy with shared histories and unresolved emotions. Jack glanced over to Maria, who remained a steadfast presence at his side, though even her expression seemed to waver under the weight of what was unfolding. I know I've made mistakes. Mia paused, her voice trembling. But I've been trying to change. I thought coming here might start to fix things between us. She swallowed hard, a flicker of determination lighting her eyes. I want to be part of your life again, if you'll let me. Sam, still standing at the periphery, scoffed. Who here really believes that that's going to work out? You think you can just walk back in, and everything will be fine? Jack's pulse raced, torn between a desire to protect the fragile bond forming with his neighbors and the remnants of anger festering inside him. Mia stared at Sam, then back at Jack. I don't expect everything to be fine right away, she said firmly. But I want to try. I want to hear your story, Jack. I want to understand. Understand what? He shot back, his voice rising. You didn't care enough before. Jack could feel the warmth leaking back into the room, shared breaths and wary glances. The crowd pulsed with tension, some sensing the gravity of this reunion, others shifting uncomfortably as they tried to process what it could mean. Maria suddenly stepped forward, breaking the tension like a flower blooming amongst thorns. "Maybe understanding is what we all need, Mia," she said softly. "We all carry our struggles. Let us not lose this chance to heal." The room hung in a suspended silence, eyes shifting back and forth, simmering with a mix of hope and skepticism. Would Jack let this new chapter unfold, or was it too late to mend old wounds? Jack felt his heart pounding in his chest, uncertainty and fear battling against the tide of possibility. He took a deep breath, looking at his sister for the first time without the anger clouding his vision. Could they really embark on a journey toward healing? Despite the fractured past, Mia stepped closer, her hands trembling slightly as if ready to extend an olive branch, waiting for him to make the next move. If he accepted this moment, would he open the door to forgiveness or merely bring more chaos into the fragile state of their community? Suddenly, he felt like he stood at a crossroads, the decision laden with the weight of their shared history, their family's history. Mia's voice broke through his thoughts. The choice loomed before him. What path would he choose? Jack's heart thundered in his chest as he caught sight of Mia's pleading expression. She looked so small, so fragile, standing there in front of him. Delicate threads of hope wove through the air between them, pulling taut against the walls built from years of hurt. Every fiber of his being screamed to push her away, to slam the door he'd shut so tightly against the pain she had caused. Yet something else, an insatiable yearning for connection, tugged at him to reach out. The crowd around them fell into a hushed stillness, shifting uncomfortably as their eyes flitted between the siblings, seeking a glimpse of what might unfurl. This moment felt monumental. It wasn't just about them anymore. It echoed within the congregation of neighbors who had shared their struggles, quietly perched on the edge of their seats as if they were spectators at a great, unfolding drama. "Tell me what you want, Mia," Jack finally breathed, his voice barely above a whisper. "Do you just want to start over? Pretend like none of it happened?" Skepticism dripped from his words, and he fought the urge to take a step back, to distance himself from the whirlwind of emotions rising to the surface. "I don't want to pretend," she said earnestly, stepping closer. "I want to face it, all of it, together." A lump formed in Jack's throat. Together? Could they really traverse the choppy waters of their shared past? He remembered their childhood, the laughter, the fights, the bond that had once felt unbreakable but had shattered under the weight of loss. And then Mia's choice to leave, her absence becoming a wound that grew deeper with every salt-laden tear. Jack lifted his chin, locking eyes with her. "You left, Mia. You chose to abandon me when I needed you most." The accusation hung in the air like a bitter reminder. "I know," she gasped, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "And I'm so sorry. I thought running away would protect you from the mess I created. I didn't realize I was just making it worse." Pain coursed through him like an electric shock. Each word she spoke felt like a different kind of knife. Memories surged, her laughter dissolving into silence, the long, lonely evenings that stretched endlessly, filled only with thoughts of what they had lost. And then there was Maria, standing by him with a quiet strength that felt reassuring. She reached out, squeezing his hand gently, an anchor amid the storm of emotions swirling inside him. "Jack, sometimes it's hardest to forgive those we love," she murmured, her voice a soothing whisper. "Maybe Mia's ready to try, and maybe you are too." Jack's breath hitched. Was he ready? Could he really forgive? Or was this merely a door to deeper heartache? As the silence settled back in, he felt the weight of the room press down on him. The onlookers had fallen into a trance, their breaths caught in expectation. With each moment that passed, the distance from Mia seemed to shrink, the chance to bridge that chasm of hurt pulling him closer. "What do I have to lose?" he thought. Mia grasped her hands together, the gesture frail, yet full of hope. "I want to hear everything," she said. "I know it will be hard, but I want to listen to your pain, to understand what you've been through. Jack took another moment, hesitating as he felt all eyes on him. The choice was throbbing with possibility, pulsing through the very fabric of his being. "All right," he whispered, his voice trembling under the burden of his decision. "Let us talk," but just as he opened his mouth to say more, a loud crash echoed from the street outside, breaking their moment. The air grew thick with confusion, and their neighbors rushed to window panes and doors.
What was that?
Someone shouted, voices raising into a cacophony. Jack's heart raced again, but not just from the weight of his decision. The unease slithered back into the atmosphere. He turned to Mia, catching the look of fear etched on her face. There had been a hesitant step toward healing, but faint but present chaos threatened all they had just begun to navigate. As the crowd surged to the windows, he knew. Another disruption loomed, one that could change everything once more. "Jack, what if?" Mia started but was cut off by a second, more thunderous sound. "Stay here," he said firmly, instinct kicking in as he turned to face the door. It felt like danger hovered on the other side. Could their tentative reunion survive the upheaval just waiting to happen? The answers were out there, tangled in the shadows that waited beyond the door. Jack's heart pounded in his chest as he raced to the door, every step feeling heavier than the last. He glanced back at Mia, her expression a mix of fear and uncertainty, as if standing at the edge of a cliff. He could see her mind racing, replaying their shared past and the fragile present moment. With one swift motion, he flung open the door. Outside, chaos erupted. The street was filled with swirling clouds of dust and debris. Neighbors approached cautiously, their faces painted with concern. Jack squinted against the sudden onslaught of noise and confusion, searching for the source of the calamity. Then he saw it. A car, overturned and crumpled, its wheels still spinning in a frantic rhythm. A crowd had gathered, whispering, pointing. A sense of urgency filled the air, merging with the rising panic in Jack's heart.
"Mia,"
he shouted over the din, turning back to her. "Stay inside." But her eyes had already locked onto the scene unfolding before them. "I can't," she said, her voice barely audible but steady. "I want to help." Before he could argue, she moved past him, drawn by an instinct he hadn't yet registered. Jack wanted to grab her arm, to pull her back into the safety of their conversation, but all around them, the unknown was coming alive. As they stepped into the chaos, Jack scanned for anyone who might need assistance. Adrenaline surged through his veins, sharpening his focus. Neighbors were rushing forward, a few already trying to help the driver who lay trapped beneath the crumpled metal. The faint sounds of sirens echoed in the distance, but it felt like eternity before help would arrive. "Mia, we should wait for help," Jack pleaded, instinctively reaching for her hand. "No," she insisted, her resolve shining through. "We can't just stand by." She darted towards the wreck, and Jack had no choice but to follow. Together, they approached the scene, weaving past neighbors who were already attempting to lift the debris. Jack felt the heat of his anger boiling, a mix of fear for Mia and helpless frustration at the situation.
"Jack!"
A shout from one of the neighbors caught his attention. It was Mrs. Thompson, an older woman who was always so kind to them. "We need more hands. Get that piece of metal over there." Jack didn't waste another second. He began to pull, to push, to lift. The chaotic energy infused him, his muscles working on instinct as he joined the collective effort. He felt Mia beside him, her presence a steadfast anchor amidst the frantic search for stability. "Is anyone in there?" Someone yelled, their voice quaking with urgency. A shudder ran down Jack's spine. He was reminded of all those years they had run from their past, from their pain. But here, with arms working together for something greater, he felt a flicker of hope igniting within him. In this moment of crisis, the walls that separated him and Mia began to chip away. They were no longer the siblings bound by hatred and sorrow. They were united, forged by something larger than their individual heartbreaks. Suddenly, the driver groaned from beneath the wreckage. "Help!" The urgency shifted, energies sharpening as everyone focused their efforts. Jack's heart raced, a swell of adrenaline washing over him. This was the moment of truth, a slipping glimpse of vulnerability that echoed what Mia had wanted to do all along: to face pain, to be seen, to reconnect. Almost there, he yelled, pushing harder. The metal groaned as they worked, and with one final heave, it shifted, revealing a young woman who looked lost and terrified. "Mia, stay back," Jack cautioned, but she moved forward, her eyes huge with compassion. In that very second, he realized she was a part of him, the very core that drew them together through trials. As the woman was pulled free, a cheer erupted from the crowd. Relief washed over him, but it quickly turned to confusion as he glanced over at Mia. Her face was pale, her lips trembling, and in that moment, he sensed another storm brewing within her. "Jack," she whispered, and it hit him. Hope sometimes rises from the ruins, but its price can be
steep.
What new depths of pain could emerge from this act of rescue? What truths were waiting to be unearthed as they ventured deeper into the darkness of their past? The cheers faded into the background as Jack turned fully towards Mia. Her eyes shimmered with something that felt like fear but also a determination he couldn't quite understand. The relief of having saved the driver, the rush of adrenaline evaporated. What was left was a weight, a looming presence that made the air feel thicker.
"Mia?"
he said softly, concern lacing his voice. He reached for her, but she backed away, her breath quickening. "What's wrong, Jack?" she stammered, her gaze darting from him to the crowd. "I don't know how I'm feeling. It's just what?" He took a step closer, his heart racing for a different reason now.
"Just tell me."
"We need to stick together." The sirens grew louder, cutting through the moment, and the sight of flashing lights brought about a new wave of panic. Jack could see paramedics jumping from their vehicles, ready to take control of the situation. "That's it," Mia suddenly shouted, as if something had clicked inside her. "We can't pretend it didn't happen. It's not that easy. We shouldn't just go back to how things were." Jack's chest tightened. She was opening wounds he thought had begun to heal. "We just saved someone. Isn't that enough?" But her eyes burned bright, challenging him. "It should be. But it doesn't change us, Jack. It's like us helping her was a distraction and escape from everything else that's unsaid between us." He felt the tremors of their history shift in the air, swirling back like the dust from the accident. Memories flooded in echoes of fights, secrets buried deep, things they never faced together. Mia's expression softened momentarily, but quickly hardened again. "And I can't just ignore the darkness anymore. It doesn't just wait for the right time to pounce." Jack felt his heart thud painfully. "I thought we were getting better. Together. Isn't that what we said?" "Yes," she sighed, taking a step back as if searching for distance. "But how can we heal if we keep pretending? There are days the pain weighs so much that I wonder what the point of it all is. I feel like I'm suffocating." Before Jack could respond, the young woman they had rescued, still shaky but regaining her composure, approached them. "Thank you," she said, her voice trembling. "You saved my life." Jack offered a strained smile, but it felt heavy. A part of him wanted to bask in that gratitude, but Mia's words echoed louder. Jack looked back at Mia. "We did something good today. That has to mean something." He clung to that hope like a lifeline. "Can we talk about this? What you're feeling?" She shook her head, and the slight tremor in her chin broke something in him.
"Not now.
There's too much I've kept bottled up that I can't process right away." He nodded, frustration bubbling inside him. "You can't shut it all away forever." "I know," she snapped, and they both jolted at the sharpness of her voice. The crowd had begun to disperse, leaving behind a haunting silence. The chaos from moments ago felt like a ghost now, echoing through their unresolved tension. Mia's shoulders slumped, a wave of exhaustion washing over her. "I just need time, Jack. I need to figure out what this means before I drag you into it." "Perhaps dragging each other along is what we need," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe we could help each other understand." But as the final pieces of rubble were cleared, He recognized the distance had become a chasm, a yawning silence where words failed them. What if this was just the beginning of facing their past? Could they ever find common ground and face the darkness? Mia turned away, eyes glistening. I'm not sure I'm ready to confront it all, and just like that, Jack felt the impending storm gather once more, threatening to pull them apart. In that moment of quiet desperation, he knew one thing for certain: an unexpected knock had changed everything. Would they be brave enough to open the door to the truths that awaited them? The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. Jack watched Mia turn away, crossing her arms as if to shield herself from the world, from him. His heart ached to reach out, to pull her back into the warmth of their connection. Instead, he felt the chill of unspoken words growing between them. Mia, he called softly, pain lacing his voice. Please don't walk away like this. The width of the gap between them felt insurmountable. She paused, but didn't he turn around. Instead, her shoulders rose and fell in a slow breath. I don't know how to justify what I feel right now, she finally said, her voice strained as she faced away. I'm tired, Jack. Tired of fighting against my own mind. He stepped closer, desperation driving him. But you're not alone in this battle. I want to help you. We can face it together. Her quiet laugh was bitter, mixed with sorrow. I've spent so long pushing everything down. It's not just one thing. It's layers. Like an onion, you keep peeling, and I'm terrified of what I'll find. Jack's mind raced, grasping for the right words. What if we just start with one layer? Just tell me what's been weighing you down. You wouldn't understand. She turned to face him, her eyes sparkling with unshed tears. You haven't lived my reality. I can't just lay it all at your feet and expect you to fix it. I don't want to fix you. He shot back, his voice loud in the stillness. I want to understand you. That's the only way we can heal. The young woman they had saved earlier stood nearby, observing their heated exchange. Her eyes darted between them, anxiety painted on her face. Jack noticed her, and for a moment, he felt selfish. Wasn't there a time when they would have been able to talk freely, without the weight of the world crashing down? Mia, he said, dropping his voice to a softer tone. You've been carrying this alone for too long. Let me in. Let me help you unwrap those layers. It might hurt, but it could also free you. Mia's defenses crumbled slightly as she blinked rapidly, a single tear escaping down her cheek. What if I'm too broken? What if I drag you down with me? I'm not afraid of the darkness, Mia. I'm afraid of losing you to it. As if struck by his sincerity, her shoulders relaxed, and she took a hesitant step forward. She caught her breath, the air between them shifting from hostile to heavy with yearning. Their shared past loomed large in her eyes, memories of laughter entwined with sadness. I just don't want to hurt you anymore, she finally whispered, the vulnerability flooding the spaces where anger had been. Whatever it is, he urged gently, we'll face it. Together. They stood, locked in a moment that felt as fragile as glass. And then, in the distance, the sound of footsteps approached. Jack turned to see a man walking toward them, his face grim but resolute. Mia, Jack, he called, urgency in his stride. We need to talk. It's important. Something has happened, and you're both wrapped up in this. Mia's expression shifted, concern quickly overshadowing the tentative bond they had begun to build. What do you mean? Jack felt his heart rate spike again. Strangers didn't just approach them with urgency without a reason. The man closed the gap, breathing heavily. There's something you need to know. Something that might change everything you thought you understood about your past. Mia's eyes widened in disbelief. What are you talking about? He paused, a hesitation hanging in the air. Jack exchanged glances with Mia, but both of them could sense a shift, the shadows of their lives peeling back to reveal the unknown. Jack braced himself. Whatever was coming, it felt monumental. But the question loomed large. What truth had come knocking at their door, ready to redefine everything they thought they knew? Jack stared at the man, his heart pounding. What are you saying? His voice was taut, echoing the urgency in the stranger's eyes. There's been an accident of fire, the man began, catching his breath. Your father, he's in the hospital. He asked for you both. A wave of shock washed over Jack. Memories flooded in the arguments, the hurtful words exchanged in anger, the years of silence that followed. An icy grip wrapped around his chest, squeezing hard. Our father? He whispered, disbelief hanging heavily in the air.
Yes.
He has been asking for both of you, the man said, urgency shining through his downcast demeanor. You'll need to come quickly. There's not much time. Mia shifted beside him, her trembling hands clenching tightly. The news hit her like a freight train. Jack could see the transformation happening, a mix of fear, old wounds reopening, and the faint sting of hope. How is he? Is he? Her voice faded, tears brimming in her eyes. The stranger looked grim. It's serious. But he's conscious. He wants to make amends. Make amends? Jack could hardly voice that loaded phrase. The tension building between them cracked, but this new reality threatened to shatter everything they had just begun to piece together. After all these years? Mia's face paled. The flickering candle of vulnerability from moments before threatened to be snuffed out by the panic of their past. What are we even supposed to say? What if he doesn't want to see us? Jack felt his pulse quicken. We owe it to him, and to ourselves, to at least try. Try? Mia's voice was near desperation. What if he just wants to tear open everything we buried? The man shifted uncomfortably. There's no time for doubts. We have to go.
Please.
Silence hung thick. Jack and Mia exchanged glances, the weight of their unresolved histories coiling tighter than ever. What lay ahead was terrifying, yet within that fear sparked a flicker of resolve. Mia took a deep breath, as if trying to summon the courage buried beneath years of pain. For him, for us? Yeah, Jack nodded, holding her gaze. I'm not going to let his mistakes define us any longer. They stepped towards the man, each movement pulling them deeper into a web of feelings they had avoided for far too long. In an unexpected twist, vulnerability began to feel less like an anchor pulling them down and more like a lifeline. As they made their way to the car, a sense of urgency propelled them forward. Jack felt the anxiety twisting in his stomach, but beside him, the uncertainty shifted into a facade of determination. The hospital loomed large as they arrived, sterile and daunting. Heart racing, Jack allowed Mia to take his hand, a shared connection in a world of chaos. They entered the building, the antiseptic smell filling their lungs. Every step felt monumental, echoing of unspoken fears and broken bridges. Inside the room, Jack hesitated, his hand hovering over the doorknob. Ready? He whispered, squeezing Mia's hand for strength. Ready, she whispered back, though her face was a mask of apprehension. As he pushed the door open, they stepped into the stark white room, the beeping of machines underscoring the gravity of the moment. There he lay, fragile and frail, the man who once stood as a towering presence in their lives, now diminished to a whisper of his former self. Dad? Jack's voice broke the silence, uncertainty thick in the air. Their father's eyes flickered open, clouded but filled with recognition and remorse. You came, he croaked, wrinkling his brow with effort. Mia stepped forward, uncertainty swirling in her chest, but she refused to retreat. We had to, she replied, her voice steady yet soft, tinged with old wounds. You asked for us. His shoulders sagged with a mix of relief and regret. I'm sorry for everything. I should have been better. The words fell from his lips like shards of glass, each syllable steeped in the pain of years lost. Jack felt the weight of those words crush him. Do you realize what you put us through? I know, his father whimpered, pain etched on his face. But I was too afraid to face my guilt. Guilt, isn't a substitute for being a father, Jack shouted, the anger bubbling to the surface. Where were you? But as the harshness of his own words hit him, he stepped back, clenching his fists. Would their conversation be another fight, or could this be a moment for something different? Mia broke in, her voice steady, but filled with emotion. We aren't here to tear you apart. We want to understand. Can you try to explain? Tears streamed down their father's cheeks, his vulnerability laid bare before them. I pushed you too away afraid of what you'd think of my failures. I thought distancing would protect you. Jack felt the fight dial back a notch. It wasn't the understanding he craved, but it was a start. You hurt us by leaving. You hurt us by pretending. What are you going to do to change? I don't know, he admitted, frail and shaking.
But I want to try.
I want us to heal.
Please.
With every word spoken in that room, a void was filled, scars began to soften, and the fear of what was left unsaid hung in the air like a heavy mist, ever present yet slowly lifting. Mia, with renewed resolve, squeezed Jack's hand tighter as their father's story unfolded, the highs, the lows, the fears. They listened, their hearts a little lighter, a little freer with each shared revelation and mended memory, unfolding before them like an open book. They faced the truths together, hand in hand. The past might have shaped them, but it was in the sharing, the understanding, and the willingness to forgive that they carved out a new beginning. Outside the hospital, the clouds began to part, rays of sunlight breaking in. Here's to trying, Jack murmured. Together, Mia echoed, newfound strength igniting within them as they took a breath, ready for whatever lay ahead. As they stepped out, they walked with something bittersweet, but a little brighter. The journey was far from over, but they faced the future together, a warmth igniting in their hearts. This was the moment they reclaimed their family, facing the storm not as individuals, but as a united front. And as they took those steps into the light, the spark of hope burned brighter than ever before, whispering softly that healing was possible after all. Now, if you felt this story hit you right in the feels, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support, so hit that button. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm some love. Comment your thoughts on this emotional ride and what you felt about the ending. And wait not even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who could use a little hope today. Only the true fans understand how important your support is to keep these stories alive.